Well, welcome everybody. My name is Renee Broussard. I'm filling in this evening for Bob and Noel, who are doing their civic duty as poll workers today. And tonight we have RoyalKye, and his presentation is Miracle Maker Presents Be the Light. So, and first we're going to have our video like we have every time, introducing CCC and the co-creators Convergence and the speakers that we have coming up. And so I'm going to get that started here. So again, this evening we have RoyalKye, Miracle Maker presents Be the Light. And our host this evening who brought RoyalKye to us is Renee Renick. Renee is a registered nurse and holistic practitioner, bridging the best of Eastern and Western medicines for mind, body, spirit, well-being. Renee is an evolving shaman and a strong advocate for healing arts for healing hearts. Through her Pain to Purpose message, she teaches that the missing ingredient to heal the body is through emotional healing. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Renee, to introduce our speaker.
Thank you. Yes, we want to give RoyalKye some aloha. So,
aloha.
RoyalKye, wildland firefighter turned spiritual sage after his near-death experience. RoyalKye grew up in the Wild West Mountains of Wyoming, and an avid sports and fitness enthusiast from a young age, he learned how to hone his physical body through intense sports and wrestling. After high school, he joined the Federal Fire Service and traveled across the country battling the forest fires in helicopters across the nation. Due to his intense fire service and childhood trauma, PTSD took a toll on his mental and emotional health, leading him on a path of destruction and chaos for many years. But it's out of that chaos that he was forged due to his resilience and his unwavering hope that God always had a plan. After his near-death experience in 2017, he went to heaven and met God. His life changed forever. And now, as an author, speaker, and an empowerment coach, teaching through his own wisdom and knowledge from what he's learned from the depths of despair, becoming the miracle man today. Welcome, RoyalKye. Much aloha to you.
Aloha, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my mission and to share aloha with the world. And so it's amazing to see you. Thank you for the invite. It was so serendipitous how we actually met and came together. And perhaps that'll be a little later in the presentation. But before I speak or I sing or do a presentation, I really like to set a container so that we can have some coherence where we are. It doesn't matter if we're physically separated, we're here in this space. And so I would invite you to take a couple deep breaths and just allow yourself to drop into this space. We're here sharing this time together. We're here sharing this space together. So just taking a couple deep breaths and letting everything just fade away. There's nowhere to be, there's nowhere to go, there's nothing to do. Just take a couple deep breaths with me as we just settle into this space to receive the magic and the miracle. And I would invite you to place your hand on your heart and your lower hand on your belly, and knowing that you've always been enough and that your heart has been with you your entire life, keeping you alive, pumping thousands and thousands and thousands of gallons of blood for you your entire life. And so it's a miracle that we're alive today, that we can see, that we can feel, that we can hear. And gratitude is the universal key that unlocks what we're looking for. And so I'm extremely grateful to be here. I'm grateful for all of you. And just take a moment to honor your body and say, thank you. Thank you for keeping me alive on this entire journey of my life, because we've all seen and walked and experienced so much in our lives. And it's really important to come into a place of gratitude for the good, the bad, the wonderful. It's this experience of life that we get to cherish, and it's the duality that we get to move through to understand that we are infinite beings and we are spirit incarnate. And so thank you for this opportunity. And we'll just get into the presentation. And so, yeah, my background, I grew up in Wyoming, and it was the Wild West, and it really was. And so it was rough, tough cowboy country. And being an empath and being a very spiritual person at a young age, I adopted this lens that I had to be tough, I had to be the best, I had to be all these things. And it really put me into this paradigm of me against the world. Because if you're not tough and you're not taking care of yourself, nobody's going to do it. And so I went from wrestling and being a state champion wrestler when I was younger to wildland firefighting to cage fighting. And I was like, okay, if this is the society that I have to be in and live in, then I have to be tough. I have to do all these things. And so it really, our society is really broken in the sense that it doesn't allow men to truly connect with their feelings and their emotions. And we don't have healthy outlets. And so I turned to drinking and to drugs because I was so broken from childhood trauma and PTSD. And I was just running for so long. I didn't know how to feel my feelings. I didn't know how to feel my emotions. And so in 2017, I had left the fire service. I was living in Mexico with my former wife. She was a Mexican national. We traveled all around Mexico, came back to America to go to rehab because if I didn't, I was going to die. And so I was on a pretty good path for a while, but I had a near death experience where I went to go and get a pizza from the store after an argument with my wife. And I had been drinking. So I went to go get the pizza, and I'm cruising around on the motorcycle and thinking that I'm really cool, right? And I've ridden motorcycles my entire life. And I had the pizza on the back, and I looked behind me just to make sure that the pizza is cool. It's a pepperoni pizza, it's a big deal. And I looked and I came back around, and there was a roundabout. And there was no signs, there was no reflectors, there was no nothing. And I hit it headfirst going 30 miles an hour without a helmet. And I launched into this cement barrier that was this roundabout, and I busted my jaw in half, and it ripped from my skull on the left side. This entire side of my face is completely shattered and caved in. I had 3 shattered ribs, a shattered scapula. I had a broken arm. I had 2 fractures and 3 torn ligaments in my left leg. I had internal bleeding in my brain, my kidney, and my spleen. And I was on the pavement, laid out, hemorrhaging massively from my right eye socket. And my head was tilted in such a way that I was hemorrhaging into my own mouth. And I was about to asphyxiate in my own blood and die. I knew it. I knew I was about to die. And I'm sitting there on my back. And I pray with all my heart. I pray with all my might. And I say, God, please save me. I don't want to die. Please save me. And at that moment, I blast out of my body and I go to heaven, and I go to the most beautiful, blissful, white place you could ever imagine. I want you to imagine your happiest moment, your happiest experience, the most joy, the most bliss, the most gratitude you've ever felt, and times it by 1,000,000. Literally, that's how amazing where we come from is. And I'm sitting there, my consciousness, my soul is there. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going to stay here. And it was so, everything was so complete and it was so perfect. And I felt at home. And then I hear this voice and it says, you can't stay here. You have to go. You have to go back. And I'm like, no way, dude. No way. I'm not going back. What, go back to Earth? It's freaking tough down there. There's a bunch of crazy bastards. And I'm one of them. Like, I'm not going back. No way. And God's like, you have to go back. You can't stay here. And I'm arguing with God. I was like, I'm not going back. And on the 3rd time, when he says you have to go back, I see my body in this bloody, mangled mess, and it looks like a murder scene. And I said, okay. And I summon up my negotiation skills, and I say, if I have to go back to Earth, you have to make sure that I'm not paralyzed, that I don't have a traumatic brain injury, and that I'm healthy. And you teach me how to live, because I'm very broken as a man and as a person. And you have to teach me, and I'll do whatever you want me to do. I'll be your man. I'll share my testimony with the entire world. And he says, okay, all right, deal. And after I made the deal, I made a pact on my life. I said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. If you say run, I say how far. If you say jump, I say how high. If you say do push-ups, I'll say how many. But you have to save me. So we made the deal. I go back into my body. And then a trauma doctor that lived right across the street ran up to me, and he saw me, and he's like, oh man, this dude's dead. Like, I got to turn him over. But he didn't want to, for the fear of a spinal column injury. But he's like, I have to. So he cradles my spinal column, and he turns me over, and he opens up my airway, and he takes off his shirt. He's trying to stop the bleeding. There's blood everywhere. And he calls 911, and there was an ambulance that was dispatched 2 blocks away, parallel to where I was. And they were on the scene so fast. And it was just an absolute miracle. And it was part of my destiny to be there, and them being there. And so they're working on me. The doctor's like, we gotta go. We gotta go. This guy's gonna die. This guy's gonna die. And then my dad shows up in all of Salt Lake City in Utah, the entire valley. He shows up. We'd been estranged. We hadn't talked in a week or two. He shows up, GPS pinpoint location to where I am. And an EMT runs up to him and he says, sir, you don't want to see this. This is nasty. Like, this guy's probably going to die. And my dad's like, that's my son. And the EMT's like, how in the hell would you know that? And he's like, God told me. He told me that he was going to be in an accident, and he told me to come here and pray for him, and he's going to live. And so they loaded me up into the ambulance. They get me to the hospital. God stops the bleeding in my brain. They don't have to do any surgery in my brain. There's no brain damage. There's no traumatic brain injury, no spinal column injury from a blunt force impact, head first on a motorcycle without a helmet. Blah, splat, nothing. They stent my kidney and my spleen, and then they work on my face 10 and a half hours worth of surgery. They did a pretty amazing job. There's only a little scar right here and right here. And I wake up in the hospital a day and a half later, and I realize what happened. And I was like, wow. I was given a second chance at life. I've literally been given a second chance at life. And the doctor's like, you are the luckiest man alive. I'm like, I know. And they said, well, we were in there fixing your face. We just straightened your nose a little bit, because I used to cage fight and be a wrestler. So They're like, we just straightened it out for you. And I was like, all right, cool. I wake up, they tell me I get a nose job, and I'm alive. And so it was a wild thing. And I realized like it was my fault 100%. And so I had one of two options: continue down the path of pain and destruction, or accept responsibility and accountability and say, okay, this is my fault. Like, I can't be a victim anymore, and let me move forward boldly. And I made a resolute decision. And when we make a firm decision, the universe conspires for us, and blessings and amazing miracles and things happen. So I was in the hospital 2 weeks, and I was working out 3 months later. I healed so rapidly. The doctor said, how in the hell are you doing this? This is physically impossible. How are you healing this fast? So if you're in a difficult place, maybe you have some physical ailments, or you're not in optimum condition mentally or emotionally or physically or spiritually, and you're down, it's like, I get it. I was literally busted up, broken because of this accident, because I had alcohol in my system. The insurance company said, hey, bro, you had alcohol in your system. Here's a medical bill for $500,000. They denied everything. So here I was. And the time I was working in corporate finance, I thought that money was the end all be all. Yeah, like money, as long as I have tons of money, everything's perfect, everything's fine. There's no amount of money that it like can't fix all my problems. But money doesn't fix a broken heart. Money doesn't buy you true love. Money doesn't buy you real friends. And so it was a major paradigm shift in my life. And I went through divorce, I went through bankruptcy, I went through all of these things. And so in the book, I teach you about body, mind, medicine. I teach you about resiliency from real, raw, visceral experiences that I've gone through. And each and every chapter have reflective questions and journaling prompts and tools and resources, because I suffered far too long, because I just didn't know what I didn't know. As a wildland firefighter and a helicopter attack crew, and on engines and hand crews, and working with hot shots and a federal command team, we're the ones that are tough. We're the ones that are going in and rescue people. We're not broken. We don't have anything wrong with us. But as we consistently go into a fight or flight response, our neurochemistry, our physiology, and our psychology has changed. And so our baseline's so much higher than the general populace. And so that's what I'm doing with the book, is raising awareness on mental and emotional health, and letting people know, hey, it's okay to not be okay. When we go through traumatic experiences, or we're in environments that are not conducive for us, they change how we interact and how we feel. And so it's really about coming back home into our bodies. And what Renee is about is going through the emotions to discharge the trauma. I went to rehab, I went to therapy, I did cognitive behavioral therapy, I did dialectic behavioral therapy, I did fasts, I did prayers, I did so many things. I did everything that I thought I could, everything, men's groups and retreats and workshops. But it wasn't until I learned that we have to discharge the trauma from the limbic system that we can actually have this lasting change. So it's like this. This is from Peter Levine's book, Waking the Tiger. So we can take a look at our animal counterparts. Let's say a bird flies and it hits the window. If it doesn't die from breaking its neck, its nervous system shuts down. So that's a trauma, okay? So something's happened, traumatic, its nervous system shuts down. But after a while, the nervous system will reset and the bird comes to and it shakes. And the shake is the most important thing, because it's shaking off that trauma and it's resetting back to a normal and healthy baseline. And then it lives to fly another day. But what happens with us is our neocortex is far more advanced. And so our thinking analytical mind comes in and it shuts down the process. So we can't clear, because we're thinking about it. We're thinking, oh, why this happened to me? This is terrible. And we're judging it. And when we're in judgment or criticism, we're in separation and we're not in wholeness. And we can never be in peace and love, because we're in judgment, we're in criticism, we're not in this wholeness. And so it's all about discharging the trauma and really learning how our mind and our bodies work. And so that's what the book is all about. And that's why I founded Frontline First Responders, is all about raising awareness on mental and emotional health for our first responders, because substance abuse, suicide, divorce, anxiety, depression, bipolar, like all these things are 6 or 7 times higher than the general population, because brothers and sisters are going in and out and in and out of a fight or flight response all the time. And so that's what I'm all about. I'm only alive because God saved my life. And I want people to know that the divine is real. God is real. Yeshua, Jesus, like all these ascended masters, like there's guides that are here to help us. There are people here to help us, and it's not here alone. And when we can connect to the divine and really surrender, and we ask questions and we ask for help, we have to ask. It really comes to us because we live in a free will universe. And so if we have a closed fist or a closed heart or a closed mind, we can't receive anything. So we literally have to open up and say, hey, can you help me? When I went through the near-death experience and the bankruptcy and the divorce, I was so broken. I said, can you help me, please? I don't know how to live life. And then I was brought to Hawaii to come and heal. And so I'm going to do a quick screen share. Cool. So we all have a divine spark within us. We all are a part of the divine tapestry of life. And each and every one of us has a unique mission that is so intricately woven into the fabric of existence and reality. It's miraculous. It's so divine. It's absolutely astounding. And that's what I want people to know. When we can really listen and we can be guided and directed, we think we know what's best. It's like, I have to have this and it has to happen this way. But God sees everything, knows everything. He created us. He's like, no, I got something way better for you. There's good, better, and best. And so this is what it's all about. And so the book launch is coming out August 8th. You can go to miraclemanjourney.com. It's in the chat. And when you sign up, you're going to get 8 PDFs. And the first few PDFs are going to talk about me and the process, but the rest of them are really understanding who you are. What is your North Star? What is your focus? Because fear comes in when we do not have a clear goal. But once we have a clear goal and a focus and a target, we see where we're going. We're like, okay, what's the next step? And then the next step. And then you're going to get PDFs for taking a life audit. Where are you currently? And we have to be real and vulnerable and honest with where we're at and how we need to operate. And so that's what the book is about. And there's mantras in there and there's all kinds of amazing things. That was me plastered and just, that was after the surgery and then, fixing me up. But that's me. I mean, when I look at that guy died. Like I was reborn, and it was difficult and it was challenging, but I willed my will and I said, I'm going to heal rapidly. I don't care what the doctors say. I was given a second chance at life and I have a purpose here. And so it doesn't matter what other people say or what other people think. It matters what we think and what we believe, because our thoughts create our reality. Our perception creates our reality and how we operate in the world. And so I started down the path for a journey of application, really. So researching on, learning, it led me on how positive mental programming and quantum healing can achieve amazing results. And I'll go into more of what quantum is and these things. But we're at the time in history now where science and spirituality are at the bleeding edge of what is really possible, of how miracles operate and how we can control our thinking and our behavior and heal ourselves rapidly and be empowered and engaged and loved life, because that's what it's all about. The system that we live in literally wants to fabricate us into a very limited version of who we are. They want us to think that we are just humans, and sometimes we have a spiritual experience, but we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and our thoughts and our words and our actions literally ripple out into the universe and change the fabric of reality. Each and every one of us has the opportunity to leave a lasting impact on this world. It's not just, hey, we show up and then we die, then move on. What are we going to contribute? What are we going to give back? How are we going to evoke this sense of our own unique magic and music and medicine for the world? Because each and every one of us has experiences that nobody else has ever experienced before. It's not letting me do this. I apologize for this. So what does wholeness look like to you? What does it feel to be whole? Have you ever really felt whole? When I was in heaven, I was completely whole. It was amazing. There was nothing missing. There was nothing wrong. It was so amazing. And it's so I didn't want to come back. I really didn't. I was like, no way. And sometimes when I'm having a tough day, I'm like, oh God, this place. No, but I'm here to like share all this stuff. And it's amazing when we can step into gratitude and love our life and what we're here to do. And so listening to our intuition on how we can operate, how we can be, because a lot of people, we're programmed, we're conditioned, we're indoctrinated, we are cultured. And through the cultural engineering in the program, it says, hey, you have to be this to get this. You have to have this to feel okay. You have to have this new thing to be cool. And after you keep on going through that cycle, you realize that this is an endless rat race. This is an endless cycle. It's a hedonistic matrix mesh where if you get more money, then you'll feel happy. But numbers never end. And so if you are basing your value off of numbers, you will never be complete and you will never be whole. If we're basing our value off of external influences and people and situations, we're separating ourselves from our divinity, from our wholeness, from our completeness, because we're already whole and complete. We're amazing human beings. We're amazing spiritual beings. We're amazing epic souls. And so that's what I want people to understand, that we all have a purpose, and to be the light, to share the truth, share your love, share your gratitude. Because once we can realize that there is nobody ever been us, there's an entire history of mankind, nobody has ever been you. There's never been a you that has had the same experiences, the same talents, the same abilities, the same perspectives ever. And once you can realize that, that's when you start becoming your own superhero and realizing, wow, I really have a unique perspective. I really have something to offer this world. And so through this, God saved my life and directed my purpose, because I didn't want to keep on doing what I thought I needed to do. And okay, if I get this, and if I get money, and if I have this girlfriend, or if I have this car and this house, on the outside, it looked like I was healthy at the time when I was in corporate finance and working with these big clients and talking numbers. And I thought it was really cool at the time, like, yeah, look at me. But really inside, like I was dying slowly, because I wasn't being authentic or true to myself. I wasn't being real with myself. And so I'm so grateful for the motorcycle accident, because it changed my entire paradigm. It changed my perspective, my life path. And that's what it's all about, because the lens through which we view the world either offers healing and empowerment or degeneration, because where attention goes, energy flows, and neurons that fire together wire together. So it's really about rewiring ourselves, reprogramming ourselves, and understanding I am a divine being that was created in God's image. I am a divine person that has a unique purpose here, and God knows me. And it's not outside of us. That's what religion did, is they came and took our spirituality and they said, God's outside of you. And it's like, no, the kingdom of heaven is within. And so how committed are you to your wholeness, to your empowerment, to your mission? Because the current lives that we live and where we're at, they're not going to hold God's vision for us, the blessings and all the things that we want to receive if we truly decide to be brave and embark upon this journey. Because all the dreams and the things that I had within hopes and understanding before the accident would have never ever fit into my life. And so I had to go through that to be able to understand who I was and where I'm going and get a new perspective. So I don't know why this isn't letting me switch it individually, but quantum what? So quantum physics, it's really cool. I want to put it in simplistic terms. It's through intuition, feeling, but it's really a way of understanding your life as one series of choices that are in themselves ultimate acts of creativity, of creation. So we are co-creating with God. We are co-creating with the universe. And every day we wake up, we have a new opportunity. If we change the perspective that we view our lives in, and we say, okay, how am I viewing the world right now? Is this an empowered lens through which I'm viewing the world? Am I disempowered? because that lens, if you have glasses on of judgment or anger or bitterness or whatever it is, that's what you will always see. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank account. It doesn't matter what job or profession you have or what partner you're with. If you are not in a place of gratitude and joy, you'll never ever have enough. You'll never be enough. And so the quantum realm is really about understanding how our perspective shapes reality, and we can quantify it and we can qualify it. And that's what I want to talk about in this next these coming up slides, through some different experiences from some amazing people. So everything is energy in our universe. Nothing is created, nothing is destroyed. It's just retooled. It's just moving forms and shapes. And so once we understand, okay, the life I want is really looking for me. The relationship that I want is really wanting to be here with me. The empowerment, the love, the joy, the success, what I'm wanting is wanting me, because it's all energy and it's already here. But our life is a reflection of our energy, of our internal energy, of our thoughts, of our beliefs, of our paradigms. And so it takes someone that's really brave to be like, okay, I have to be 100% honest with myself. I have to be brave. I have to go into these dark spaces that I've closed down because of judgment or fear or trauma, and start to open up them so that we can have the sunshine of the spirit come in and cleanse them, and we can release them. And so once we understand that we're the creator of our life, that it is our universe, that each and every one of us has a unique universe that we operate in, that we have unique dreams and a plan that's a blueprint for our lives that's so amazing. If we can listen intuitively to what our heart is telling us, because our heart is a powerful command center. It's 5,000 times stronger than the brain, electromagnetically speaking. And it literally creates an aura around us from anywhere from 6 to 25 feet, and they can capture it. So the stuff that the sages or the yogis or the ascended masters or Jesus and all these people were talking about isn't woo-woo. This is literally advanced spiritual science. And so the creation of our life is always expanding, but what are you creating? Are you creating thoughts of abundance and joy and harmony? Or are you focusing on separation and victimhood? So we have to take our lives back. And so our perception of both our internal world and external world is ours and ours alone. We have to understand our life is our life. We're currently in our situations and circumstances 100% of our belief system, of our habits, our behaviors, and for the better or for worse. And we reclaim our sovereignty and we reclaim our power when you say, okay, this is my perspective and I don't like it. This is my behavior and I don't like it. Because we take our power back rather than giving it away to somebody. We say, okay, I did this. I was the one that was drinking and driving on a motorcycle. I was the one that went to go get a pizza and I wrecked my life. But you know what? That was my miracle. I didn't judge it. I said, okay, this is where I'm at. And when I was in the hospital, I said, I'm going to be so loving and so joyous and so happy. I'm going to just share so much love with so many people. And there was people that were far worse than I was. And as we're sharing joy and as we're in higher elevated emotions, it's literally upregulating our genetic expression, and we're healing and we're repairing and we're restoring rapidly. And once we understand how our physiology and our psychology operates and how they're inverse relationship and how we can manipulate them in a good way, we can get into states of empowerment and joy and gratitude quickly because we're training ourselves and we understand that. And so energy is everything, everywhere, and it's all connected all the time. You know, science calls it the biofield. Chinese call it qi. The Japanese call it kai. Hindu philosophy call it prana. Hawaiians call it kai as well. Interesting that my name is Kai and just spelled differently. Quantum physics calls it the quantum realm. Spirit, Christians call it spirit, the Holy Ghost. It's been talked about across the globe for eons. And we're finally understanding that we're not separate from it, that we are intricately woven into it. And once we tap into it and we really understand, then we're like, whoa, this is like magic. Holy smokes. A simple exercise that I want you to do. Instead of saying, oh, I never find a parking spot, or oh, it's always busy, how about you start saying, I always find a parking spot? I started this from one of my mentors, and I started doing it, and I always find a parking spot. The most amazing parking spot, always up front, boom, I always find a parking spot. Because where attention goes, energy flows, and we're creating our reality in a lot of different aspects. Let's see. So this is an amazing experiment by Masamaro Emoto. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about him. The Hidden Messages in Water, I would highly recommend it. There's a lot of people that have expanded upon his science about what he has done, but he was able to prove that water exposed to speech and thoughts would result in symmetrical geometric crystals being formed when the water was frozen. And so he took petri dishes and he put individual droplets of water in those petri dishes, and he wrapped a piece of paper, a single piece of paper, around that petri dish, and they had words of joy or thank you and love and gratitude or evil and you fool. And he was able to photograph them at a rapid rate, and he took pictures of them, and this is the actual result of what was happening. So I want you to think about this for a second. A word that was written on a piece of paper that was not even touching the water was able to change the symmetry and the structural formation of that water. Think about that for a second. Wait a second. A piece of paper that had a word on it that wasn't even touching that thing changed that? What? How much water are we made up of? How much water is the world made up of? And if you start to open up your mind and your perspective to something more expansive, you can begin to see, oh, the program doesn't want us to be conscious and understand what's really going on, because once we understand, the game's over. Because we understand that love and gratitude and harmony and thank you creates beautiful symmetry, and it can literally heal us, and we can be more connected. And if we're telling ourselves, our cells execute without bias, and they're always listening. So when you say something like, oh, I'm getting old, or oh, my back's always bad, or oh, my stupid body, the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference from an internal event and an external event, and also if we're joking or not. So we have to be very careful with our words as we're speaking and creating and spelling, because we're literally crafting our reality. When I woke up in the hospital from this bloody mangled mess, my jaw was wired shut for 8.5 weeks. I lost 45 pounds. I didn't say, oh, you stupid body. Oh man, I'm so broken. I said, no, I'm resilient. I'm amazing. My cells are filled with golden light. I heal rapidly. I am empowered. And that's how I was able to do it. And adopting meditations and mantras and affirmations and journaling, we can really change the course of our lives for the better once we start adopting key principles. And it's only 1% better each day. It's going to take effort, it's going to take change, but life is hard. And there's only two decisions: continually stay where we're at and stagnant and bitter or disconnected, and that's hard. Or we can choose to grow and to be resilient and expand, and we put forth the effort, which is hard. But the second choice gives us so much more on the long run. And that's what I want people to know. It doesn't matter where you're at currently. It doesn't matter what you've experienced. It doesn't matter what you've gone through, because God has a plan, and he can take everything and use it for good, no matter what you've gone through. If I wouldn't have had the motorcycle accident, I would have never written this book. I would have never understand body, mind, medicine, and epigenetics, and all these things that I'm going to be covering here in the next slide. So it's my miracle, and I'm so grateful for it, because it's given me the tools that I need to share with people and let people know, hey, I get it. I've been through near-death experiences. I've been through an overdose. I've been through bankruptcy. I've been through divorce. I've been through trauma, mental, emotional, spiritual, sexual. Like, I get it. We don't have to stay there. It's only if we stay there that we choose to stay there, and that's where we stay. Because if we fight for our limitations, we get to keep them. So food for thought. How much water is in the human body? And how much of this planet is water as well? So just think about the implications of this. If a water droplet's physical structure can change from a piece of paper wrapped around a petri dish, what can our words and thoughts and actions do not only for ourselves, but the planet as a whole? Imagine if everybody on the planet for one day, just maybe 1 minute, maybe a second, just said love or gratitude or joy. It would literally change the fabric of our reality because it would change the water, because we're made of water, because the planet's water. And so that's the most important thing, is understanding that our perception changes our reality. And one thing that is really amazing is we're in this place of empowerment. So there was a school of thought back in the day when they said, oh, you're born with this stuff and you can never change it. And this is how you'll always be. But that's not true. With epigenetics, our thoughts, both when we're speaking externally and also internally, are changing the expression of how our genes are expressed. So if I'm in a state of gratitude and joy, I'm like, okay, I know that I'm broken right now. And my body's like physically broken. Maybe I'm sad or I'm depressed, but I'm so grateful to be alive. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. Our body is literally creating chemicals that are a natural pharmacy that are healing and repairing our physiology and our psychology. But if we're in a state of, oh, this sucks and it's terrible and I hate my life and I hate people and all these things, we are down regulating ourselves and we are spending all these chemicals that are causing massive amounts of disease in the body and that are breaking us down. And so this is how the program works. This is what they've done through media and culture and programming, is they've literally hijacked our autonomic nervous response, the fight, flies, or flight or freeze response, or fawn now. But so if I can get somebody emotional, I can hijack them, and 4 specific things happen right away when we are in a fight or flight response. Number 1 is the biggest. We cannot make our highest cognitive functioning ability. We can't use our executive function because I'm worried about the scary bear that's going to come and eat my life. I'm not thinking about, hey, how am I going to have a better life and feel healthy and happy? So even if it's a mild stress response, it shuts down and it limits our brainwave activity and how connected we are. So with the news and the radio and magazines and, oh, the world's going to end and, oh, it's so terrible and all these things, people are like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. And then boom, fight or flight response. I hijacked you, right? So number 1, executive functioning shuts down. Number 2, our immune system drops anywhere from 20 to 30%. Our immunity, boom, drops and it goes into the fight or flight response to be able to keep us alive. Number 3, what happens is interesting because we can never, ever learn new information. No new information can come into the system because we're literally in survival mode. And number 4, it causes a massive amount of dis-ease over time. And so when people are anxious or depressed or stressed, that's where they're at. They've lost their creativity. They've lost their spark of life. They've lost where they're at. They just can't function. And it's so difficult. So it's important that we control our internal environment. We can't always control our external environment, but we can control how we speak to ourselves, how positive we are, how loving we are, how grateful we are, because those are the things that empower us. And so once we can step into this, we can understand, okay, I can start to understand this. This makes sense. This is why I journal, or this is why I write gratitude lists, or this is why I say affirmations, or this is why I'm doing, these different modalities to be able to discharge the limbic system. It's because physiology follows psychology and psychology follows physiology. I want you to understand this. So if I'm somebody and I'm like this, and I'm looking down and just kind of sad and I'm walking, what do you think their mindset is? As compared to somebody that's walking and smiling, it's a direct result of their internal dialogue, of their inner world. And so as you begin to understand the perspective of how people are moving and how you're moving and how they're showing up, you can really be like, oh, that guy's really depressed. He's really down. And so that's what we need to start beginning to understand. Another thing, a really cool thing, neurogenesis. This is where we can literally generate new neurons from stem cells in adults in our hippocampus. So we can generate new neurons. What? Like there was a school of thought when they said, if you lose brain cells, like you're done, Timmy, you're going to be just a dope your entire life. You can never learn. You're going to be not at all. With neuroplasticity and neurogenesis, we can create new nerve cells, new neurons in our brains to get smarter, and we can expand and we can grow. The possibility is limitless. And so ways to engage in neurogenesis to create new neurons is exercise, specifically aerobics. So breathing, so getting our heart rate up and having this aerobic exercise, daily reading each and every day, even 5 minutes a day in the morning and at night. True gratitude and positive emotions are creating neurogenesis. If we're in anger, hate, greed, separation, we're killing neurons in our brain. We're literally, so it's extremely important. A caloric restriction in diet. So if we have a timetable of when we're eating, that's how we can generate new neurons. And eating crunchy foods, they found for some reason, they found that eating crunchy foods really helps generate new neurons. And so there's things that we can do to be able to empower ourselves. There's new science and understanding, hey, this is how we can operate and how we can be resilient and how we can heal and we can become empowered and we can love our lives and how we can share our talents and our abilities. And just because we've been somewhere or we've experienced something, that doesn't have to be where we stay. It's only if we choose it that that's where we stay. And I'd hope and I would encourage everybody to choose something that's empowering. Let's see, which one is this one? Talk about brainwave activities, but this is something that I want to talk about here. V equals infinity. V is for frequency equals infinity. So frequency is everything. This is the vitality and attitude scale. And as you look at this, each and everything is energy and frequency. And as we're in different frequencies, different modes of thinking, vibration, thoughts, it literally is empowering us or making us healthier, or it's disempowering us and it's literally causing tension in our limbs, our muscles tightens, it diminishes our stamina, feelings of pain or fear, our chest constricts, or it's giving us stamina, greater flexibility, feelings of pleasure and excitement. So when we have a thought or a feeling come in, or oh, this will never change, or I'll always be like this, or I can't do this, we have to be like, no. Hey, where's my focus? Where's my intention at? Because we can change, we can grow, we can adapt, we can learn, we can become the most amazing version of ourselves. Because there was a lot of experiences in my life that were very, very difficult. They were very challenging. I was suicidal at 8 years old. I would have rather carved myself up and bleed out and die than live in the existence that I lived in at 8 years old. And you can read about it in the book because of my home environment, because of my school environment, because I was quirky and empathetic and hyperactive. I was like, this planet's crazy. I do not want to be on this planet. I do not want to be with these people. And so I really hope that you can get to a place of empowerment, that you can get to a place of joy, that you can get to a place of understanding to really be our best, because everybody has this amazing, amazing ability to make miracles happen. That we have a divine light within each and every one of us. And where we come from is so amazing. It's the most amazing thing ever. And the more that we step into gratitude and the more we step into joy and we ask God to guide us and direct us, we can be guided and directed and have these amazing experiences. And that's what I want people to know. And as I was writing the book, God's like, you have to write everything. And I'm like, whoa, bro, this is like, some of this stuff is super, super personal. Like, I have to put this in here. And he's like, yeah, when you made an agreement with me that I would save your life, didn't you say you would give me your life and do whatever you told me to do? And I was like, well, yeah. He's like, that's what you got to do, bro. And so it's my real, raw, authentic story of my life. And it covers experiences of me traveling across the country as a wildland firefighter. It covers me growing up in Wyoming. It covers supernatural and mystical experiences in Europe. The Europe trip is absolutely just phenomenal. Mystical experiences in Hawaii. And I want people to understand that miracles are real, that magic is real, that God is real, that Jesus is real, that angels are real, and that the more we tap into this connection, things can start unfolding in our life. That's like, oh my gosh, did you just see that? Did you what is this? Did you what? And it's happened time and time again. And so when you read the book, there's an upfront disclaimer saying, hey, the stuff that you're going to read in here may seem stranger than fiction. And it is, because our world is stranger than fiction. But the powers to be that are very nefarious, that do not like humankind, that do not like God, want to keep us separated. They want to keep us divided. They want to keep us diminished. And we have to come together first with ourselves and our hearts and realize we're like superheroes. If our hearts generate an electromagnetic field around us that's 6 feet to 25 feet, and they can capture it, isn't that like we're superheroes? If if water can be changed by a piece of paper, what are our thoughts saying? What are our words saying? And so that's what I want people to understand, that life is amazing and you got to get the book. And I hope you guys are enjoying this presentation. I've never put this together in this format, so I'm excited for this.
But I have the chat up, and because you're such an amazing person, and because you have such a glow and such a heart, people want to know more about your background. But most of us want to know, like, how did you get your name?
Oh, wow. Yeah. How did I get my name? Okay. So my birth name is Kye, Kye. And I didn't know what that meant till I was 33 years old on the island of Hawaii. And it means keeper of the key or bringer of life. And I asked my dad, where did you come up with this? And he's like, God just told me it was your name. And my last name is Funke, which is German, and it means a spark or a blacksmith or a very lively person. And I do my best to be a lively person because I don't want to, misrepresent my name. And so that was my birth name. But after some very intense mystical spiritual experiences, and after a 30-day coconut fast where I did 11 hydrocolonic sessions, I did a parasite detox, I did a heavy metal detox, and I was only drinking coconuts for 30 days. I went into this mystical experience, completely sober, no medicine, no nothing. I've done a lot of psychedelics, and I'm grateful for those in a good way with practitioners for set and setting. But what happened was I traveled to this place, and there was a council of these tribal elders that were from around the world. And they were talking about really advanced technology, quantum warp drives, 5D med beds, frequency that can heal people right away. And it was in a place like Sedona. I'm looking around and I'm like, whoa, this is really intense. And this old man comes up to me, kind of like the All Father, like this wise old man, this mystical figure that you see in the movies. And he comes up to me and he looks me in the eyes and he says, what's your name? And without missing a beat, I say, RoyalKye Aurelius Funk. And he says, that's right. You're here to do big things. And his eyes lit up golden. And then I launched out of my bed as if I got hit by a lightning bolt. I'm just like, what the heck? What just happened? Like, this is crazy. Like, what? And Spirit told me, like, hey, this is your name now. Like, this is how you need to be addressed. So I was like, no, bro, like, I'm not going to do that. They're like, you dedicated your life to Spirit, and this is what you have to do. Like, your Kai Funk is no longer anymore. You've grown, you've learned, you've given your entire soul and your heart to this. And so I physically, like legally changed it. It's RoyalKye Aurelius Funk, and that's what I'm to be known as now. People call me RK. Some people still call me Kai. I'll still always be Kai. But the story of Kai and how I got to Hawaii is in the book. And it's amazing. It's mystical. Once we open up, that's where the magic really happens.
I can so relate. I've had those moments where it's like, you want me to do what? You want me to,
Yeah.
own what?
Yeah.
And that's just how it is, right? Because you don't always know yourself in the majestic part of you, the divine part of you until you do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
another question. Um, Someone was said, I'd like to see a video of RoyalKye before his accident because it's hard to believe he wasn't always just like he is.
Well, yeah, I
That's
mean,
the miracle, right?
yeah, I've always, like had a really good heart, and I've always really cared about people. And my first experience with caring about people and wanting to stand up for the little guy or the people that are neurodivergent or a little different, because I was diagnosed with ADD, OCD, and Tourette syndrome from a young age. And so I used to have tics like mad. I was always ticking and just twitching. And I was just so different from everybody. And I was picked on and I was bullied every day. It was just hell going to school for many years until I got into middle school and then got into high school. And then I started getting into my looks and then my body and wrestling. And I'm just like, oh, all right. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. And I'm always going to stand up for the little guy. And that's what I really believe in. I don't like bullies. I don't like people that are rude. I don't like people that are not in this loving space, because we all go through really hard, challenging things. And you know what? The great equalizer is everybody's physical body dies. Nobody makes it out alive. It doesn't matter how much you have, how much money you have, what your experiences are, but we all die. What goes with us is our spirit, is our soul, is our consciousness. How have you developed yourself as a spirit, as a soul, as a consciousness, because that's eternal and that's all ours. And so our efforts really make up everything.
Well, when we first met, I connected with you 100%, but even just listening to some of your stories and just phrases that you use, the underdog. I remember my mother asking me when I was in sixth grade, Renee, why do you always hang out with the underdogs? And I never even realized there was like a label, underdogs, except for I was watching the cartoon Underdog. He was that superpower guy, right?
Yeah.
And those are my people. They're the
Mhm.
ones that need a pat on the back, a hug, healing. Another question we have from, let's see here, Margot is, have you ever worked with the incarcerated because there's so much need and not much help?
That's a great question. Thank you for answering that. So, when I was doing live videos and sharing a lot of content through my stories, there was a therapist that was an amazing lady that had found my stories online, and she was actually a therapist in the prisons. And she said, before I met you and started following your posts and what you're doing, I was very depressed. I've been battling stage 4 cancer. But once I heard you and your spark of life, I really, I really started living again. And she's like, and this is what she told me. She said, I hope you don't mind, but I've been playing your videos through the prison PA system for all the people. And I'm like, what? And I can't remember what place it was, but she did that, and people started like, "Whoa, dude, who is this guy?" Like, I get it. So I've been down, I've been out. I was a Wild West bad boy. I was drinking and drugging. I'm like, nobody's gonna tell me what I'm gonna do, where I'm gonna go. I'll do whatever I want. And it was because I was so picked on when I was younger that I had to develop this extreme machismo persona, because a lot of people that are empathetic or really spiritual in this world, if you don't know how to hold healthy boundaries, if you don't know how to communicate your value, you get walked all over, and then it goes as the pendulum swings. And so I'm going to be speaking to a lot of people that are incarcerated or in down and out, because it's like, listen, I get it. I understand. Like, I was addicted to drugs. I was drinking. I was smoking weed all the time because I was so broken. And it wasn't until I really opened up my heart and soul to God and the divine and Jesus and angels. I'm like, listen, please help me. I don't want to go through this. This is so difficult. And the help is there. And so thanks for that question. And yes.
Oh, Margot also asks, how do you know God is a bro?
Okay, so yeah, I've had this question a couple times. So, in my perspective, God knows us so intimately and so closely that he speaks to us as our best friend. So when I talk about like, hey, God, I'm not going back, he's like, nah, bro, you got to go back. it was how my best friend would talk to me, how I would talk to myself if I was warm, if I was my best friend. It's not some biblical perspective. In my experience, that was like, you must return hither down there. Like it wasn't anything like that. It was so friendly. It was so amazing. And to me, it was a male figure because I'm a male, but for a female, perhaps it's different. I don't know. But it was like what I believe in now and what I connect with is like Heavenly Father, Mother Earth and the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit's kind of like feminine. And so it's like the Trinity through that as well. And so that's my unique perspective. And when I was in heaven, it was this perfect white, beautiful bliss. And I didn't see a person. It was an all pervading, omnipresent energy that was the most amazing, loving feeling that I could ever imagine. And I want to go back there.
I know some of us are homesick, I just want to share this with you because I know your dad is Kemper, right?
Oh, that's my mom. Yeah. Hi, Mom.
So she wants you to know, or wants us to know, that you've always been sensitive and kind and funny and loving, even through your trauma.
Did my best. I was mad at the world for a while.
And I think you mentioned your accident was back in 2017.
2017, yeah. But I had an overdose in 2010 from a whole plethora of pills, after a surgery, and then got addicted to those. And so my heartbeat was 10 beats a minute. And so there's been multiple near-death experiences, but this is the one that propelled me into a new plateau of consciousness.
Yeah, sometimes it takes a life-altering experience to launch us. Noelle was asking, have your frontline friends responded to your transformation and teaching?
Yeah, so this was a litmus test last year. So I'd left the fire service, and I was in the fire service from 2006 until 2014. I left until 2018. So I left for 4 or 5 years. I got involved in business and sales and all these things. And so when I went back, I was still kind of broken, right? And I was still disconnected. And so in 2021, I moved to the island of Hawaii, and I went through EFT, EMDR, ecstatic dance, cleanses, and that's when it clicked. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get it now. I get it. And then I found a mentor that was the #1 trained EMDR doctor in the world that's a part of schism teams. And he's like, think about it. If we can discharge the trauma from the limbic system, which is the mental and emotional processing center, keeps all the memories, and we can do it quickly, why would they want people to get healthy? Because then you take their cash cow, because you're going to be billing insurance every hour, every week, every day. And I was like, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. And so in 2021, I was really working on healing. 2022, I was really working on healing. In 2023, I went back into the fire service, and I went back into connecting with command teams and the top people at the highest levels of the government. And one very special experience happened when I was on a fire in California, and I met a gentleman, and I just opened up my heart, and God's like, you need to talk to this guy. And he was on a command team. He is one of the leading specialists in search and rescue and fire operations in his field, and has seen a lot of death and destruction, from houses burned up to bodies and all these things. And I just said, hey, bro, life is really challenging. I get it. And like us as firefighters, the culture is that we have to be stoic, and we have to be tough, and we have to, be like this. At my peak, I was drinking a fifth a night. I was drinking a fifth of alcohol a night, like a whole bottle, like of rum, of vodka, of tequila, because of my PTSD and trauma. And he's like, I've been drinking a ton. I'm going through divorce. And I said, let's go for a walk, bro. And so I went for a walk with him, and high up in the highest level position of the federal fire service that you can get, in his realm and his specialty. And I just start opening up my heart, and I start sharing these things with them. And he's absolutely baffled. He says, how in the hell do you know all this stuff? My therapist isn't even talking about this. Like, how do you know all this stuff? I'm like, well, if you have a couple of years to go into the jungle and learn and sit and not work and just heal, you can learn some of these things, but I've literally compressed time from my experiences, and being God has brought me to the right people so that I can understand the mental and emotional landscape, the physiological landscape, the psychological landscape, in certain realms, to be able to give people tools and resources that are effective and that are powerful. And it's it's like, here, the evidence is here. It's like I was completely broken and mangled. The doctor's like, well, number one, you're a miracle to have a blunt force trauma to the head and still be walking. But number two, how are you healing this fast? This is impossible. This is, like, they said, what the beep? Because they're just like, this is nuts. I'm like, dude, I know how to heal. I know how we can heal. And so that's what I want people to know. And so that's what Frontline First Responders is all about, is we're connecting with practitioners and tools and modalities so that people can understand, hey, number one, it's okay to not be okay. Life is hard. It beats the hell out of everybody. Number two, there's people that care. And number three, there's a way out. And it doesn't have to be through drinking or drugs, or because what happens is our society trains us to distract ourselves. It's like, hey, go shopping or go and eat or go and sex it out or drink it or drug it or whatever it is, because we don't want to sit with the feelings because it's uncomfortable. But the magic happens when we can actually sit with ourselves in the uncomfortability, begin tapping. If you know about EFT, begin some EMDR or breathing techniques or somatic releases so that we can discharge that and we can reclaim our sovereignty, and we can come back home to our bodies, because our minds have gone out of our actual, like, we're subject, not object. When we're thinking of something, like if I'm thinking of this coconut water here, my consciousness is like, oh, coconut water, but we bring it back to our subject, which is us, and focusing on us to recalibrate and to be present and to meditate. And this is one thing that my fiance is amazing at. It's just like meditation and reconnecting and focusing, and she'll do it for hours. And she's actually here, so aloha, Gemma.
Nice.
And
Awesome. Yeah. 33 years ago, I learned and went through the rapid eye, which is very similar to the EMDR, and it saved my life. So I love that your compression took, and then of course I started teaching ecstatic dance, and your whole systems expand instead of being so constricted. Reiki master. I mean, you just totally become immersed in healing energies because you never knew the miracle of them. You only knew what you knew. So I love that you had your experiences and are sharing that, because I think rapid eye is amazing. I mean, to get rid of all the trauma that you've experienced in your life in just a few short weeks rather than years, it's amazing.
Yeah. And the Reiki, because the presentation, I have some Reiki slides in there, because I'm a Reiki master as well. It's an amazing thing. I do remote sessions with people. I just want to bring up something, just because I wasn't sure of the time, but I just want to share this one quick study. Actually, it's called the Hartford Hospital Studies. And so what Hartford Hospital in Connecticut did is, over a decade and 10,000 studies, they said, hey, there's got to be something to this. Like, people are having benefits of it. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. And so 10,000 double-blind studies. You can go to Reiki, the national organization. You can look at these. And so they said, okay, we'll do regular surgery, and then we'll see how fast people recover. And then we'll give people Reiki before their surgeries. And this is what happened. They were able to decrease recovery time, improve mental attitude, improve patient sleep by 80%, reduce patient pain by 78%, reduce anxiety, reduce nausea, and also in there, they healed 90% faster. They healed 90% faster when they got Reiki. Why though? Why? Because once we get into a relaxed state, we're not in a fight or flight response. We're not in, oh my gosh, am I going to die? Am I going to live? And we can drop out of a beta brainwave activity, our thinking analytical mind, and we drop into a theta state. We can begin to relax, and our body knows what to do. Our body knows how to heal. It knows how to repair. It knows how to rebuild fast. But if we don't allow ourselves or know how to get into a theta state, our bodies are going to be always thinking and thinking and thinking, not feeling and healing. And so that's the key. is getting into a theta state so that we can discharge, so that we can heal. One of the things that's really important that I teach my clients is like, set a timetable for when you eat. If you shut off, you're eating at 8 p.m. and you don't eat and you intermittent fast for 12, 14, 16 hours, whatever you build up to, when we go to sleep, our bodies are in repair, regrowth, and rebuild mode. But if we even eat a little bit of food or liquids with a bunch of sugars in them, our digestion's kicking on and it's processing all that stuff. It's not getting us, hey, this is repairing, this is rebuilding, this is rejuvenating. It's in a different mode. And so it's like, hey, just shut off eating at 8 p.m. Don't eat anything. If you're thirsty, you can drink some water, but don't eat anything. Do that for 2 weeks and watch how you feel. And don't eat food right away in the morning, because you'll be like, wow, I have more energy. At first, it's going to have a little bit of pain because your body's like, oh, this is different. But you'll start feeling more empowered and more connected. Then if you pair that with, certain supplements and all kinds of these modalities, you can really be empowered in a different state rapidly.
Yeah, I totally know that your physical health is the vehicle that takes you wherever it is you're going. But when you are in emotional pain, your body's only obedient to the chemicals you're sending it. It can only respond to the psychosomatic illnesses. So
Yeah,
it's a holistic approach to, being healthy and being well. Let's see if there was another question here. Yes, people want to know, does RoyalKye do individual coaching?
I do individual coaching, and I do remote Reiki sessions. There's quite a few people that I've helped with that. There's been people that have had heart palpitations or severe anxiety or depression. And as I teach you and I go through your unique, where you're at, I can help with, the things, because I'm just a channel. It's not me, it's God. I've went through the experiences, but I've been able to catalyze it. And so I allow you to understand where you're at, your perspective, and then we go through some individual sessions. And after 3 Reiki sessions, and you can start beginning to feel how the body feels differently, and you can get into that state. You can start coaching yourself to start doing some breathing techniques and some different stuff that I take clients through to be able to understand and to be
Yeah, for sure. And I agree. Reiki is just an amazing modality to use. Not only once you're learning it for yourself to do on yourself, but remotely, you can be anywhere in the world with anyone in just a thought. So, Noelle, do you want to turn on the gallery so people could raise their hand to ask a question? I don't see any. Oh, wait a minute. 2 new questions. Yeah, go ahead and let them ask their questions and raise their hand. I just want to say that it was one of the most amazing experiences to meet RoyalKye in Hawaii as he was following his intuition and as we were there to do spiritual work. Just the instantaneous connection that I felt with you and the honey and, just, I love your transparency, your authenticity, your genuine, you're sincere. That is so refreshing in the world we live in. So I was and am still ever so grateful that you're on the planet.
Likewise, thank you. Yeah, I was in the other side of the island. God's like, you have to go to the other side of the island. I'm like, okay. So then I stayed with friends, and he's like, hey, you have to go here. And then I had breakfast, and they're like, go up the mountain, go up the Mauna. And then I went, and I'm like, where am I going? And then there was a group of all these ladies that were there at the heiau, at the altar. And God's like, just show up. And so I went in, and I'm just ever so quietly like, hey. And then boom, I just started crying and met, this amazing soul. And so it was really special.
Yeah, it was a very cathartic place to just and why wouldn't you cry amongst all the mothers that were holding you so closely?
Yeah.
Yeah.
the meantime, I will ask one of my crazy questions. RoyalKye, what is one of the silliest questions you ever asked God? Then he went, "Are you really asking me that, bro?"
I would say after I came back, I
Mm-hmm.
was very disenfranchised because I had to build myself up from nothing. The medical company for insurance decided to deny. I had a $500,000 medical bill. Everything that I built up in my life was boom, taken away like that. All these bing, 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 bing list of things just gone, 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 gone. And I was so mad at God. And he's like, dude, like I'm rebuilding you. How are you supposed to have a healthy foundation built on, a house of cards? And so I actually wrote him a letter, and it was a very aggressive letter. God has an amazing sense of humor. Like God is like so funny. I mean, he created us, right? I mean, come on. It has an amazing sense of humor. And I wrote a letter and I asked very specific things. I said, God, I freaking hate you. I can't stand you. Couple fingers up. And I sealed it in an envelope and I put it on my desk. And this is when I was still in Utah. And 2 weeks later, I usually work out every single day religiously. And this lady comes up to me at the gym, and I'd been going to the gym like 2 times a day, morning and night, because I just like I had to because the trauma hadn't been discharged yet. And this little lady, probably about 65, maybe like 5'3", just these really, really green eyes. She comes up to me and we start talking, and she looks at me into my soul and she says, "Listen, Kai, everything that you've been through is for a purpose, and it's what you signed up for. God's given you everything that you need. All the stuff that you've experienced when you're speaking and you're talking, how are people supposed to believe you if you haven't gone through it?" She's like, "The world is your oyster. Just listen to God and he'll give you everything you need." And she answered all the questions that I asked. I was like, all right, okay, dude, cool. But me, I'm a little thick-headed. So I think that I'm the one that's doing everything. And God's like, "No, bro, like we're co-creating it together. Like you can't take all the credit. Like stop it." And so for even still after that time, like I would bang my head against the wall. I'm like, I have to get through this wall. Let me just blast through with my head and my skull, and I'm all bloody. And God's like, "Bro, there's a door right here, like 2 feet away. Open up the damn door. Just go through it. Ask. But if we don't ask, we can't receive. If we don't open, we won't have it there." So we can struggle in pain and misery and separation and discord our entire lives because we don't ask, "Will you help me? Can you help me? Will you show me? Will you give me a sign? Will you just allow me to understand why I'm so crazy and the world's so crazy?" And then look for signs through people, through places, through numbers. Like the universe and God is always speaking to us. And maybe you'll see a sign or something. You're like, "Oh, okay, what's the symbology in that?" Because a lot of things are symbolic. But that's a little extended version of the question, but there it is.
Oh, I love it. So really what I got from that is God is also a woman.
I love how he saved himself. Maybe for you it's a woman, maybe for you it's a man. But I have to agree with, and maybe I was not, it worked, but I've been angry at God before too. But I've also been in a place where I've said, "Look, I demand that you do this thing right now. You have to conspire right now." And it's happened. So I don't think there's a whole lot of prejudice against us, of who we are and how, like, whether he has a great or she has a great sense of humor. I think it comes with the intensity of what's needed at the time too. So, you do have to ask or demand, but you have to make yourself known for what you need and ask for what you want.
Yeah, I've often thought that we ask too little. Why ask for a parking spot when you can ask for, divine revelation? Or,
Yeah.
It's like, geez, you're playing awful small there. If you just want a parking lot, a parking spot, I can give you so much more,
Yeah. Ask for the love of your life and see what
Yes. And
happens.
if anybody here wants to unmute, and actually everyone can unmute, join the conversation.
There's one thing from Noel that they asked. Frequency equals infinity source. I just saw this in the chat. So
Yeah, what
everything
was the source for that? Yeah.
so that's what I came up with. I don't have a source except for just my experiences to God, right? So infinity is eternal, right? Like time and space, like time is just a construct that we've made to be able to operate within this space. And
Right.
so frequency, everything is vibrating at different frequencies, different modulations of frequency. Emotional scale are all frequencies. The lower frequencies, despair, hate, anger, as we go up the scale, love, bliss, enlightenment is up the highest. And so there's no end to the actual amount of frequency because numbers are infinite. So if numbers are infinite, therefore frequency is infinite because it's measured in numbers. And so as we go through the frequency scale, it's infinity because it is numbers. It's just at different variations and modulations. And you can quote RoyalKye on that.
Well, great, because it's very, I'm not going to say similar because I couldn't really read everything, but Margot, help me out here. What is the scale that David came up with?
Hawkins.
Hawkins.
Hawkins scale.
Yeah, he
Power
came up with
versus force.
There we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ladies. I love the chorus. I knew you all knew it. And yeah, so what's the highest on your scale that you have there, just out of curiosity? Is it joy? Is it love? Is it on your
on my scale?
Your scale? Yeah.
Oh, I would say the highest that I've ever experienced was heaven. I mean, that's like the eternal, like the highest, like it's like pure prime source. It's where our souls like our home.
Bliss.
It's where there's no separation, there's no division, there's no duality, there's no nothing. It's just the 0 point pure bliss, joy, love, completion. And it was so familiar and it was so amazing. And sometimes when I'm having a bad day, I'm just like, God, I want to go back. He's like, you have to do your mission first. And I'm just like, and so it's okay. It's okay. Someone's got their mic on. I hear the reverb.
There we go. So, in very concisely, what did God say your mission was or is?
My mission is to share truth and let people know that God is real, that Jesus is real, that we are divine beings and that we can make miracles happen, and to help raise the vibrational frequency of the planet. Because once we can become more empowered and understand that we are sovereign beings and that we all have a unique mission and a purpose, then we can share our talents and our abilities that God has given us. And so my mission is to reap and sow abundance from joy, from love, from helping better the planet through sharing my experiences, my stories, because it takes a very brave person to share all their laundry and all their mess and all their perceived mistakes, and to be able to do it authentically and say, hey, yeah, this is my life story. Like God saved me and I'm grateful for it. And my life is amazing. And so I want people to know they don't have to stay where they're at.
Beautiful.
I love
I'm going to
that.
give everyone another chance here to ask a question or say something before we start.
Have one from Beata. Beata, do you want to come on and ask your question?
Yeah, do you feel like you're consciously creating moment to moment right now? Like you really are walking meditation, because everything is so real on both sides for you. Feeling from what you shared, that I'm speculating, thinking how do you feel like are you really feel the moment from moment, and then you're aware what you're doing, which way?
Yeah, I do my best. We're human, and in this physical meat suit, and so it's I one of the things is time under tension. So it's like if we allow our ourselves to be in a certain frequency for too long, that's where we associate. And so it's like, oh no, hey, come back. Like, no, that's not where we're going to be. And so I do my very best. And I surrendered my life to God completely and entirely. And so he guides me 100%. It comes through intuition. It comes through understanding. And a lot of times it's very difficult because I'm literally going where God is telling me to go. So recently, just for instance, last month in the beginning of July, God told me, hey, like put in your 30 days to where you're staying. You're going to be moving. And I'm like, okay, where am I going? And I didn't get a response. I just didn't know. And he's like, this is what you have to do. You need to put in your 30 days. I'm like, okay. All right, don't know where I'm going. I have to put in my 30 days. And then I attend this workshop online, and it's for this world-renowned speaker training. And they say, hey, we have a live training that's coming up in Miami. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. This is where I need to be, because I've already known that I need to be in Miami and in Florida. My fiance, Gemma, who's on here, aloha, babe. She asked me, she said, hey, is Hawaii where we need to be? Is that our best place? And I was like, no, it's not. Like, I've been here for 3 years, but she's like, all right, let's meditate on it. I'm like, yeah, we'll pray and meditate. And so the next day I was like, what did you get? She's like, I got Florida. And then I was like, I got Florida, Miami, somewhere north of Miami. And so I'm moving to Florida, and I got tickets for this event. Thank God for friends and family that have helped me. And I'm going there, and I bought a one-way ticket. And I'm just like, why do I need to buy a one-way ticket? And God's like, because you ain't coming back to the island. I'm like, what? What do you mean I ain't come back to the island? They're like, yeah, like you have the book done. You're going to have your keynote speech, your conferences and workshops. You're going to Miami, and like you're going to go. And so it's really like minute by minute, like understanding like, okay, yeah, I'm a divine channel. I'm on God's path and his will. I mean, and it takes a lot of bravery and courage, because we've created these paradigms and these constructs of, oh, it has to be this way, or I have to be here, or this is the way it has to happen. And God's like, okay, sure, you can have it that way or do it that way, but you're going to spend years and years. That's not going to be the best. So it's being brave and courageous and letting ourselves be guided.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. It feels like a pure flow. This is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. Thank you for all the talk, all sharing.
Yeah, you're
So
welcome.
I've learned so much.
Beata was there with us in Hawaii at the altar.
Okay.
And she's also speaking on a Zoom next Thursday.
Cool.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she'll be here Thursday. We do have to I don't want to, but we are over our time. You've been so generous with your experiences, I love your love. It's just so pure and high, and it's just, it just resonates so strongly with me. And thank you, RoyalKye, and Renee for bringing this amazing being. I think he's a 12th dimension, something or other. He's very high vibrator, but we thank you very much for the time here. And yes, next week we will have another wonderful guest that Renee has brought us. She went to Hawaii and did a little collecting of these beautiful stars, starfish and star beings. So I'm so happy that you did that, Renee. So she will be here next week with Beata, and she has an amazing story. You'll want to hear that. I want to make sure you all know how to get a hold of RoyalKye. Be sure to go get his book. It's coming out 8/8. What a great day.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yes. So thank you so much, everyone. And I do want to make an invitation before we close, is that our group was inspired and started by a futurist and a visionary, Barbara Marx Hubbard, who started the Foundation for Conscious Evolution. And we've been meeting in person for 11 years. And this year we're meeting in October 6th through 11th, in the mountains in Highlands, North Carolina. And so I'm going to put in the chat, if anyone's interested, where you can find out more about our gathering. You go to our website, cocreatorsconvergence.com/2024 has all the details. If anyone feels called, if you get called up to the mountaintop, RoyalKye, we'll meet you there. So
Okay. Yeah, I just show up. I just poof like a lightning bolt. Yeah. Thank you,
Yes.
everybody. God bless you all. And remember, we're really only one miracle away from living our greatest life.
Thank you.
And
I
Thank
also
you,
want to
Renee.
thank Raina Shea.
Thank you, Raina
Thank
Shea.
you,
Thank you,
Raina
Noel.
Thank you,
Shea. You did
everybody.
awesome.
everyone.
Love you
Thank
all.
you.
Thank you, RoyalKye, Renee.
Yeah,
Love you.
my pleasure.
May peace prevail on earth.
And
Yes.
throughout the
Amen.
universe.
love is the glue of the universe. Yes.
Okay.
See you guys.
Night, night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.